Right now, the WNBA offseason doesn't feel like a normal break. It feels like a pivot point. The entire league is basically sitting in limbo. Players and fans refreshing their feeds, waiting to see what happens with a new collective bargaining agreement. That January 9th deadline came and went without a formal extension, which pushed everything into this status quo phase. On paper, that means the old rules technically stay in place for now. In reality, it means no one truly knows what the 2026 season is going to look like, or even exactly when it will start. When a CBA talk stalls out like this, it's not just a legal detail. It touches everything. Roster decisions, free agency, how teams plan, how players prepare, even how fans buy in. If you're a player, you're wondering what your salary structure will be, what your benefits look like, what kind of revenue sharing, if any, is coming. If you're a fan, you're looking at the calendar the league just released for 2026 and quietly thinking, is this actually going to happen on time? That uncertainty is hanging over everything. But here's the twist. At the very same moment that WNBA business is basically stuck in neutral, women's basketball as a whole is absolutely booming. And the clearest example of that right now is the Unrivaled league. Instead of the offseason feeling empty, Unrivaled has slid right into that space and turned it into must-watch basketball. The momentum hasn't slowed down just because the WNBA's paperwork is jammed up. If anything, the opposite is happening. The statement Unrivaled made in Philadelphia says it all. They packed 21,490 people into the arena. Let that number sink in for a second. Not only is that a record for this young league, it ranks among the top 5 highest attendances ever for a professional women's regular season game, including WNBA history. That's not a minor milestone, that's a signal. It tells you there's real demand, real energy, and a fan base that's more than ready to show up in huge numbers when women's basketball is treated like a premium product. People who were there in Philly have talked about how big it felt, playoff-level noise, that buzz you get when you know you're part of something that's going to be talked about later. This isn't some charity exhibition run in front of a few thousand fans. This is a competitive, domestic, off-season league drawing NBA-sized crowds in a major market, right while the main league those players come from is still trying to figure out basic labor terms. That contrast is impossible to ignore. For anyone who's still catching up, Unrivaled is designed as a high-intensity, compact league that gives WNBA players a chance to stay home, get paid, and compete at a really high level during what used to be the overseas or nothing part of the calendar. Fast-paced games, creative formats, and star power everywhere. And in this CBA moment, it's starting to look less like a side project and more like a very real leverage point for the players. It proves they don't have to leave the United States to put fans in seats and bring broadcasters serious numbers. At the center of so much of this buzz is one name you hear constantly right now, Paige Bueckers. After her WNBA rookie campaign, she's carried that momentum straight into Unrivaled and turned herself into one of the faces of this off-season era. She hasn't just been good, she's been flat-out dominant. Through this Unrivaled run, Paige is averaging 25.0 points, 6.7 assists, and 6.0 rebounds per game. Those are massive numbers. That puts her third in scoring across the league, tied for first in assists, and making an impact on the glass, too. On top of that, she's already claimed the first free throw challenge title. Everywhere you look, she's at the front of the pack. Because of that, the league's one-on-one tournament is basically turned into the Paige show before it even tips off. This isn't just some side event. Players and fans are circling it on the calendar. And for Paige Bueckers personally, the stakes are insane. This isn't simply about bragging rights and highlight reels. It's about real money that actually rivals what she's making in the WNBA. Here's the breakdown. Her contract with the Dallas Wings is valued at $247,688 over 3 years. That comes out to roughly $82,563 per season. Respectable for a rookie by current WNBA standards, but still modest compared to what her profile and impact would command in a fully mature market. Now look at the Unrivaled one-on-one tournament. The winner leaves with a $200,000 grand prize. One weekend of elite one-on-one competition, and someone could walk away with almost the same amount they make in an entire 3-year WNBA deal. That comparison is jarring. When you realize that a single off-season tournament can nearly match what a top young star like Bueckers is making from her main league contract, it puts the CBA conversation into sharp focus. It's one thing to talk about fairness in the abstract. It's another to literally see a player potentially doubling her annual income in a couple of days because another platform is willing to put big money on the line. Of course, she doesn't just get handed that check. The road to that $200,000 is tough from the very first game. The recently released bracket laid out just how challenging Paige's path is. In the opening round, the 1 versus 8 matchup in her pod, she's going up against someone she knows extremely well, her own Breeze teammate, Kate Martin. Facing a teammate in a high-stakes knockout one-on-one matchup is always layered. You practice together, you know each other's tendencies, you respect each other, and now you're standing across from each other with huge money and bragging rights on the line. Reports out of the league say Martin wasn't exactly thrilled when she saw that draw, and honestly, who would be? Around the league, Bueckers is widely viewed as the toughest possible matchup in this format. She can score at all 3 levels, she's deceptively strong, she has great footwork, and she's a killer out of isolation. If you could choose any other name on the bracket to avoid, hers might be at the top of the list. If Paige gets through that first round game, it doesn't get any easier. In the quarterfinals, she'll have to deal with the winner of a matchup that's guaranteed to be electric, Arike Ogunbowale versus Brittany Sykes. That's a clash of 2 players who both bring serious intensity, but in very different ways. Arike is one of the purest bucket getters in the sport, capable of hitting tough shots from everywhere. Sykes is known for her defense, toughness, and ability to disrupt rhythm. Either one would present a very different problem for Bueckers, but neither is anything close to a soft landing. Pod B officially tips off on February 11th at 8 p.m., and there's no question about who the favorite is. Paige comes into that group as the clear frontrunner. The betting public, the analysts, the players themselves, most people see this as her pod to lose. And there's another big factor hanging over the bracket. Last year's one-on-one champion, Napisa Collier, isn't in the field. She's sidelined with ankle injuries, which means there's no defending champ to go through, no one with the belt already in hand. The title is there to take.
For someone like Bueckers, who's been carrying this Rookie of the Year shine and backing it up with her play in Unrivaled, this is a prime opportunity to plant her flag as the best one-on-one player in the world right now. Not in a hypothetical way, but backed by a trophy, a massive check, and a bracket full of stars she had to beat to get there. And again, if she pulls it off, she walks away with a payday that almost matches a full 3-year WNBA deal. 1 weekend of work, 1 tournament, life-changing cash. The rules of the event are built to crank up the pressure. The format uses a 7-second shot clock, which is brutal if you're used to running sets and reading help defenses. 7 seconds means you have to create immediately. No wasted dribbles, no resets, no standing and sizing up for half a possession. On top of that, it's make it, take it. So if you get on a roll, you can shut your opponent out for big stretches. But if you miss, you might not see the ball again for a while if they flip the momentum back on you. Those rules overwhelmingly favor players who can get their own shot quickly and who can also stay locked in defensively possession after possession. Someone like Bueckers fits that mold perfectly. She's comfortable with the ball in her hands. She can break you down off the dribble. She has a pull-up, a 3, a mid-range, and she's crafty around the rim. But this format also opens the door for veterans and other stars who thrive in isolation. That's why nobody is treating this like a coronation. Look at some of the other names sprinkled throughout the field. You've got Breanna Stewart, a former league MVP, with a combination of size and skill that's almost impossible to match. Chelsea Gray, one of the most cold-blooded shot makers and decision makers under pressure. Aaliyah Boston, who can bully opponents physically and still hit touch shots. Jackie Young, who has quietly built one of the most complete perimeter games in the league. Kelsey Plum, whose scoring bursts can blow open a game in a matter of minutes. This is not a soft draw for anyone. Top to bottom, it's one of the deepest collections of women's talent in any off-season event we've ever had in the United States. So on one hand, you've got this ultra-competitive, highly visible off-season league putting 6-figure prize money on the line, drawing more than 21,000 fans to a regular season game, and showcasing WNBA stars in a format that spotlights their individual skill. On the other hand, you've got an official league that's in a holding pattern, operating under old rules, and still trying to iron out basic issues like revenue sharing, housing, and facility standards. That's the bigger picture that makes this moment feel so important. Unrivaled success doesn't just give us something fun to watch in February, it changes the player's bargaining position. It proves there are alternatives. It proves that these athletes can move the needle by themselves. If the WNBA can't get its CBA together in a way that reflects what these women are worth, players now have more options than ever to earn domestically, build their brands, and keep growing the women's game without relying solely on their main league contracts. For fans, that's both exciting and nerve-wracking.
You want your favorite WNBA team to have a full, drama-free season in 2026. You want that new NBC and Peacock era to launch with all the stars present, healthy and happy. But you also can't unsee what's happening in Unrivaled. You can't ignore 21,490 fans in Philadelphia. You can't pretend that a $200,000 one-on-one prize doesn't raise questions about why rookies are locked into contracts that pay less over 3 full seasons. The longer the status quo period stretches on, the more these comparisons are going to keep coming up. Every big Unrivaled moment, every sold-out arena, every viral highlight of Paige Bueckers dropping 30 in a one-on-one game will put more pressure on the league and the owners to come to the table with something serious, because fans are done with the old narrative that there's just not enough money or interest to pay these women more. The crowds are telling a different story, the streaming numbers are telling a different story, the off-season prize pools are telling a different story. You also get the sense that the players themselves understand their leverage in a way we haven't quite seen before. Names like Bueckers, Colliers, Stewart, and Wilson have real power. When they speak up about conditions, fans amplify it. When they hint that they're willing to hold the line for a better deal, people listen. And when their play in leagues like Unrivaled proves just how marketable and elite they are, it becomes harder and harder to justify a CBA that doesn't cut them in more fairly. In the short term, though, all eyes are going to be on that one-on-one tournament. February 11th, Pod B, 8 p.m., Paige Bueckers versus Kate Martin to get things started, with the possibility of a showdown against Arike Ogunbowale or Brittany Sykes waiting in the next round. A wide-open bracket with last year's champion Defisa Collier watching from the sidelines. A $200,000 prize hanging over every possession, every shot, every defensive stop. Even with the uncertainty swirling around the WNBA CBA, women's basketball fans are not starving. They're feasting. They're getting playoff atmospheres in February, superstar matchups in small-sided tournaments, and real stakes that go beyond just pride. What happens in this Unrivaled stretch isn't just entertainment, it's part of the negotiation playing out in public about what these athletes are worth. So as we sit in this strange off-season crossroads, with the league officially in a holding pattern and a new domestic competitor breaking attendance records, one thing is clear: the players are showing exactly why they deserve more. Whether it's Paige Bueckers chasing a $200,000 one-on-one crown, or 21,000 fans packing a building to watch women's basketball in the middle of winter, the message is the same. The question now is whether the WNBA's next CBA will match what we're all seeing with our own eyes. Let me know how you see it. Do you think events like Unrivaled and this one-on-one tournament will push the league to finally step up in these negotiations? How do you feel about a rookie being able to almost match her 3-year WNBA deal in one off-season weekend? And who's your pick to come out of that bracket? Does Paige Bueckers cash the big check, or does one of the veterans steal it? However it shakes out, this offseason is proving that women's basketball is not waiting around for anyone.